It's emotes, but for the invitation, right? I mean, that is also an invitation for asking ourselves what we stand for, what we stand up for, and what we can do with that which is within us. I feel very blessed that we have this kind of spiritual community that we have. Amen? You don't even know why, but you feel it. Well, because there are things that are easy to talk about, and there are things that, at least for me, may not be as easy to talk about. And yet, I believe that we are in a safe space, right, where we can have some of these more challenging discussions, at least challenging for me, and that we can invite ourselves to check in about what we believe, how that's meant to show up in the world, and who we are as a result of being not only individual expressions of the divine, but a collective expression of God. It does make me a little nervous, some of the things that I want to share with you today, because I know that they can be a little prickly, and I already had some people coming up to me after the 9 o'clock service and just sharing some of their perspective, which I appreciate. I am comfortable with having some of those type of conversations, and comfortable with being uncomfortable in some of them. So as I've been doing quite a bit lately, I think, I'm going to just invite you to be okay with being a little uncomfortable if that comes up. And if you're not uncomfortable, push a little bit more to the place of uncomfortability. One of the things that I've shared with you before, I love the Neil Donald Walsh quote that says, life begins at the end of our comfort zone, right? That's the place of growth. That's the place of evolution. That's the place of deepening for me. And so I want to talk to you about the intersectionality of spirituality and social justice. The intersectionality of spirituality and who we are as divine creations of God and divine expressions of God, and our own conscious evolution as a human family and our place within that. We don't have to go too far to understand that there is a connection. Our master teacher and way shower was a beautiful model of this. Jesus, right, brought about a greater understanding of our truth, a greater understanding of our oneness and our connection with the divine. And he was also somebody that was deeply involved in the social justice issues of his time. And he was somebody that, yes, brought the consciousness and took action from the place of that consciousness. He didn't just, pray about it. He did something from that space of prayer, right? So he invited people to come together, and he would teach and he would guide. But when he was walking down the street and he saw a woman almost getting stoned, he didn't just take a step back and pray. He got in the middle of it. He got right in the midst of it and invited people to maybe see it in a different way and act in a different way. And so I believe that we are also being called to do just that. From that place of consciousness, be in the midst of it. I love that we can call ourselves spiritual beings living in the world, right? Like, we are in the world. Part of, I believe, the gifts that we have and that divinity that is within us, for me, is so that we can be in the world and bring about an uplifting of consciousness and an uplifting of the whole human family. And so, for me, this is really about our stepping into what Andrew Harvey, he's a spiritual leader that I've followed for many years, he calls sacred activism. And sacred activism, listen, I've been with it for a while, so many of you know this. What you may not know is that when I first entered ministerial school, to enter, you had to do a 5-minute talk in front of this whole group of Unity ministers. And because I was a little full of myself and I thought there was something I needed to teach them, I decided that I would speak on sacred activism. And it was controversial at the time. Some people told me, don't do it, because at that time, there was still some hesitancy, right, about this connection between our spirituality and being in the world. Unity is such a beautiful philosophy that really invites us to go within and to look and check about the things in our own consciousness that needs healing. And in that way, sometimes the shadow part of that is that it becomes a little self-absorbed. And many times, until I'm right with myself, I can't go out into the world and take action. And that's some of what used to be a part of Unity in some places. I don't think ever at Unity on the Bay, quite honestly, but in some places. And I do appreciate that it does invite us to take full responsibility for who we are, our consciousness, and how we show up in the world. And it's not only about our individual consciousness, but we get invited to take some responsibility for the collective consciousness. And so things have changed within Unity, within the new thought, within this idea of spirituality, getting involved in the greater conversations that are happening in society about the state of different things and how different things are showing up. And, being a mystic, a modern day mystic no longer means that you just sort of like divorce yourself from society and go up the mountain and pray and meditate. We can be a mystic right here and right now. I would venture to say that all of us are mystics right here and right now. And from that space of mysticism, we're able to affect change within our own lives and in the life of humanity. And it is really about knowing that even in the midst of that challenge, those social justice issues that are really being, or really calling us, that even in the midst of all of that, the potential for good is there. But I don't know about you, I don't ever like to let a good amount of potential go unused, right? And so what are we doing with that potential, and how are we allowing that potential to fully rise up and to be expressed the way that it is asking to be expressed? So Andrew Harvey, he coined this term, sacred activism. He says this: sacred activism is the fusion of the mystic's passion for God with the activist's passion for justice, creating a third fire, which is the burning sacred heart that longs to help, preserve, and nurture every living thing. Now, it's interesting because when I read that, I don't see a difference. I don't see the three fires. To me, it's all one big fire that is alive in us. Because for me, having a passion for God is about having a passion for people. Having a passion for God is having a passion for justice and the way that people are treated, and the people that, or the ways that we invite other people to know just how loving and worthy they are of love. All of us are. And so for me, it's just two sides of the same coin, right? And so Andrew Harvey really invites us to look at that more fully and ask ourselves, and I believe this is the next level of our own, or the next step in our own conscious evolution, is like, how are we showing up as sacred activists in the world? Because let me tell you, there are individuals, and we all make mistakes, and we all sometimes don't see the truth that is in a situation, and we experience truth in different ways. And so there are people that are, and there are situations that are showing up with the lack of awareness about our oneness, lack of awareness about who we are as divine expressions of God. And so the people that know that we are one, that know that there is this God within our own very being asking to be expressed, we got to do something with that, is what I believe. And we do that in our lives. We do that in our individual relationships. But today I'm going to really invite us to look at the ways in which we can do that and extend it in even greater ways when it comes to social justice issues. My hope for you and for us today is that this week you leave more aware of a social justice issue that is asking you to be a part of it. Whether that is LGBT rights, racial justice, homelessness, the cost of living here in Miami, how seniors are treated, right, in certain communities. And so there's so many different ways in which we can all be involved in some of the things that are taking place and bring all of who we are to those spaces. I imagine that some of you this morning coming here were thinking or wanting me to mention something about the shooting that happened in Kansas City on Wednesday at the parade, right? Unity Village was actually closed so that all of the Unity Village employees could go to the parade. And I've been talking to some of them, and everybody is fine, but one person passed away. There's many people in the hospital, and the trauma that all those individuals are now living through as a result of it. But I also imagine that some of you didn't want me to talk about the shooting in Kansas City because, one, it may be too much to bear. Two, sometimes, we consider coming to Sunday services or being in this community. I wouldn't call it an escape, but just as a different energy to be connected to, maybe to like just re-inspire us to be able to face some of the things that we have to face. I know that many of you have asked me about sharing where I'm at with the things that are happening in Israel and in Gaza. And so many of you have shared that you'd rather me not get into it because it's too political, it's too prickly, and there's so many different ways of being able to see it and experiencing. Well, about the politics, just know that my major was going to be political science. So it sneaks in every so often. But I really do believe that it's no longer about being shy about having some of these conversations, that we are being asked to have strength and have courage to have the hard conversations, because it's actually part of our spiritual journey. It's part of our spiritual evolution, and it's part of our self-actualizing. You know, we're on this journey of self-actualizing, so we don't have to shy away from being in the world, because part of the reason why I believe we are self-actualizing is so that we can totally own that we have an effect on the world, right? So many times it's the world that's having an effect on us, right? And we react to it. And I believe self-actualizing is to get to the place of being so strong in our love of God, our love of each other, our love for humanity, our love of who we get to be as expressions of the divine, that we actualize that. And that's what allows us to respond to the world and have an effect on the world that is around us, not just the friends and the family, but people that we will never, ever know, because we are the ones. I really believe that we have been drawn to it. Now, we got to face some of the things that are coming up before us. James Baldwin, who was a writer, author, activist, African-American activist, said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." So what are some of the things that we don't want to face? What are some of the conversations that we don't feel very comfortable in having? And that is not only in the world outside of us, but even within us, right? Like, we have to face ourselves, our needs for healing. We have to face the judgments that we have placed on ourselves, the limitations that we thought we had done away with, but there's still some remnants within us, right? And so we get to face all those things, and that is the place where evolution, conscious spiritual evolution can take place. That is the place where we get to really own who we are. And as we allow ourselves to face that which is within us, then we're able to face the ways in which those things are mirrored out in the world outside of us. And when we look out into the world, there are so many different concerns: environmental concerns, social and economic inequalities, our politics of division. And believe you, I'll just say, if I'm not centered, the politics of division that we are about to experience could really get the best of us. And I'd rather do it a different way. I'd rather live into it a different way. I'm really enjoying, we changed our cable situation, and so I'm really enjoying not being a news junkie. But not being a news junkie doesn't mean that I don't know the things that are going on. It just means that I'm giving myself the space to become centered, to take a pause, and from that place, check out what's going on and check in about what is mine to do within those situations. And for me, it really is about love. You know, we're in the month of love also. And how are we expressing that love of God, that love of ourselves, and that love of each other? How are we love in expression so that others may experience being loved and may feel to be worthy of the love of God? And so love is what fuels it, and love is what pushes us into some of those areas where love hasn't been fully realized. My love for people is why I will share with you that in the face of what took place in Kansas City, I don't want that to happen again. My love for people so that they don't suffer as a result of gun violence, so that they don't have the trauma of experiencing something like that. My love of people is what guides me into thinking and feeling and knowing that there needs to be stronger gun laws, right? My love of people is what does bring me to the place of feeling and knowing that there has to be a seizing of violent lives being taken, whether it's through gun violence in the United States or whether Hamas taking, people from their homes, or even the innocent lives that are being lost, Palestinian lives that are being lost in Gaza right now. It is my love of people that informs that for me. And it is my love of people and who I am and how I want to show up in the world that is informing me that, you know what, Juan? I have to share this. And I can't be shy about sharing it. Well, listen, I get it. Somebody told me at the first service that they wanted to post something on social media about what happened in Kansas City, and they refrained because they didn't want to get in the midst of the back and forth and being challenged with it. I get it. And are we not equipped for it? Do we not have the strength and the wisdom and the guidance of God within us to be the ones that affect that change and to be able to live more fully from that place of love and from that place of nonviolence? Because that's it for me at the end. Like, the more and more that I think of it, the more that I go deeper into, the more that I grow up, the more that I evolve or devolve, however you want to see it, the more that I realize it's all about nonviolence. And so, politics aside, ways of doing it aside, I'm just going to stand for love. I'm going to stand for no innocent lives being lost. I am going to stand for a seizing of anything that feels violent or is experienced as violence, how difficult it may be, and I'm equipped for it, just as you are. Whatever social justice issue is calling you to be more involved with. But let me tell you, I strongly believe we are each being called. All of us are being called. And so if you can't hear it, I invite you to pray. If you can't hear it, I invite you to meditate. If you can't hear it, I invite you to talk to somebody who may be experiencing some of that violence and some of that disconnection. Because I do believe that each and every one of us are being called to it. And it really pains me sometimes when we talk about these things, and so many times when people say thoughts and prayers, it's quickly dismissed. I understand why it's dismissed, right? Because some people feel like it's just a way of escaping the need for action. But let me tell you, I believe in the power of our thoughts. Do you? I believe in the power of our prayers. Do you? So thoughts and prayers with the people that are experiencing that level of violence and disconnection. And we remember that Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder, shared, she said that prayer was only preparatory work. It was only complete when we took action. That prayer was incomplete until we took the action from the wisdom that came up in prayer. And it reminds me of a quote that I found a couple of days ago from Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist, the African-American abolitionist, who said that he prayed for freedom for 20 years, but received no answer until I prayed with my legs. And so what are your legs guiding you to? What are the ways in which your hands are asking to reach out to somebody that is in pain, that is hurt, and that is needing to experience that love of God that we know is the truth of our being? In the 1 John chapter 3, verse 17, 18 says, "How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses help? Little children, let us love, not in word or speech, but in truth and action." I believe that we are called to be the rebels that Jesus modeled for us. He embodied this fierce love and this fierce passion for justice, and his teachings, yes, emphasized forgiveness and loving thy neighbor, and his actions were a testament to the things that he believed and came to teach. I know that I'm always being asked when I speak with you to look at the ways in which I'm out of integrity with the things that I am speaking to you. And I invite you, as we talk about this without guilt or shame, to ask yourself, are we out of integrity with showing up as love, showing up as peace, showing up as that social justice rebel-minded, Jesus models perfection of the Christ consciousness that we are? And so we can't be recluses during this spiritual journey. That's not what I believe this journey was supposed to be. We were meant to be in community and in connection with each other. And I believe that the next level of owning our principles in unity is, as Reverend Pam mentioned earlier, to live the truth that we know, to live the principles, and to do it not from a place of being shy, but from a place of really standing in the power that these principles give us. These principles aren't only so that we can live into heaven, it is so that all of us can live into hell. And if we believe that we are all one and that we are all mirrors of each other, if there's one person that is not living heaven on earth, it's a reflection that I got to do something about. Because we all will live into heaven on earth when we all live into heaven on earth. My heaven on earth will be short-lived if everybody else is not living into it. And so it is for me and for us to lift each other up in that moment and in that process. I believe that we are here for a reason. I know that we mentioned this on Sundays, right? Like, we're here for a reason. But think about it. We're also here on this earth, on this time, in this place for a reason. How many of us believe in the divine wisdom of God? Amen? Well, there's a wisdom that made us be in this space. There is a wisdom that made us be the ones that have to be awakened to what is happening in the world and awakened to what is happening within us so that we can affect the changes out in the world. It is by no mere coincidence. It is such a delicate and beautiful wisdom that who are we to question it instead of just flowing with it and asking ourselves, all right, the wisdom is heard, the wisdom is felt. Now what do I do with it? Who do I bless with it? Who do I show up and hold their hand through it? And who do I make the world a little bit better for? This is, I believe, what really is calling us now. And, maybe all that we've been reading about spirituality, maybe all that we've been learning, all the tools and the practices and the radical forgiveness forms and the Byron Katie 4 questions and all those processes, maybe, just maybe, we were being shown those so that we could be in this time and now do something about it. From the place of love, from the place of loving God, loving ourselves, and loving each other. If people feel unloved, love them. If people feel that there is an injustice, check out how you can support them feeling welcomed, equals, lifted up. And I believe that we can do it because it's within us. Everything we need. L.R. Noss, who is a writer, says this: do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break and all things can be mended, not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go. Love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. Brothers and sisters, let us love not only in words or speech, but in truth and in action. And I invite you to ask yourself, what is your truth? And what will be your action to live that truth more fully? Then truly, when we do that together and connected in the awareness of God living through and as us, we will be celebrating, honoring, and dancing in the streets. That beautiful song that was sung. Whoever thought? I didn't know this, but it's a beautiful song for Black history. Actually, all the cities that it mentions are cities that were in the time like experiencing some injustices and disharmony, and they could see the vision of what was possible. Unity on the Bay, can you see the vision of what's possible? Can you see a vision of love? Can you see a vision of wisdom? Can you see a wisdom in a brotherhood, in a sisterhood, in a humanhood that will allow all of us to live heaven on earth? Yes? Well, let's get to it, guys. Thank you, namaste, and amen. Thank you so much for visiting our YouTube channel. We post new videos every week to keep you positive, present, and inspired to your divinity. Please click on the subscribe button below and also that notification bell. Remember to share this with your friends and your family, those that you know will be inspired just like you have been. And always remember that we love you, that we bless you, that we behold the Christ in you, and we see you doing great things. Thanks and take care.